Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna
Srinvatam Sakatha Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha
Vidyantastovya Bhadrani
Vidyantasto Abhadrani
Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of a devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly enchanted. Nashtapreshu Bhadreshu
Nashtapreshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. This is text 19. Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste
Kashchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure Bandhum Sochasi Kanchanamba Dharma Uvacha Kachchid Padre Namayam Atmanaste Vichayasi Malayatesham Mukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antaradhim Dure bandhum sojasi kanchana.
Anybody else? These vast crowds, somebody else should be called. Where's everybody? So anyways, okay. So word meanings. Dharma.
Dharma.
Uvacha.
Uvacha.
Dharma inquired.
Dharma inquired.
Kachit.
Kashchit.
Whether.
Whether.
Badre.
Badre.
Madam.
Madam.
Anamayam.
Anamayam.
Quite hale and hearty.
Quite hale and hearty.
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 Atmanaha.
Atmanaha.
Self.
Self.
Te.
Te.
Unto you.
Unto you.
Vishaya asi.
Vishayasi.
Appear to be covered with the shadow of grief.
Appeared to be covered with the shadow of grief.
Malayata.
Mayata.
Which darkens.
Which darkens.
Ishat.
Ishat.
Slightly. Mukena.
Mukena.
By the face.
By the face.
Alakshaye.
Alakshaye.
You look.
You look.
Bhavatim.
Bhavatim.
Unto yourself.
Unto yourself.
Antaradim.
Antaradim.
Some disease within.
Some disease within.
Dure.
Dure.
Long distant.
Long distant.
Bandhum.
Bandhum.
Friend.
Friend.
Shochasi.
Sochasi.
Thinking of.
Thinking of.
Kanchana.
Kanchana.
Someone. Amba.
Amba.
O mother.
O Mother.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
So we go translation first. Dharma, in the form of a bull, asked, Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease? Or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place? Please repeat. Dharma,
Dharma,
in the form of a bull,
in the form of a bull, asked,
Madam, are you not hale and hearty?
Madam, are you not hale and hearty?
Why are you covered with the shadow of grief?
Why are you covered with the shadow of grief?
It appears by your face
It appears by your face
that you have become black.
that you have become black.
Are you suffering from some internal disease?
Are you suffering from some internal disease?
Or are you thinking of some relative
Are you thinking of some relative
who is away in a distant place?
who is away in a distant place?
Purport. The people of the world in this age of Kali are always full of anxieties. Everyone is diseased with some kind of ailment. From the very faces of the people in this age, one can find out the index of the mind. Everyone feels the absence of his relative who is away from home. A particular symptom of the age of Kali is that no family is now blessed to live together. To earn a livelihood, the father lives at a place far away from the son, or the wife lives far away from the husband, and so on. There are sufferings from internal diseases, separation from those near and dear, and anxieties for maintaining the status quo. These are but some important factors which make the people of this age always unhappy.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And my
spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge to offer my respectful obeisances of the Lord. So, this is Dharma, who is also Yamaraj, in the form of a bull. He's questioning this cow who was Bhumi, the personality of the earth. And they're suffering, they're both suffering, they're both being attacked by Kali. And so he's beginning to question her. Now he's the superior, so he's questioning her. She could just as well have been questioning him, why are you standing on 3 legs and suffering like this? What's happened to you? But he's questioning her, and he's asking really specific questions. This is only the beginning, and it's not the only time in the Bhagavatam where we have a story where somebody is despondent and somebody, a superior person, starts asking questions. So I want to talk about that. But first of all, I want to talk about, in the purport, it's not a very big purport, and Prabhupada focused on the miseries of the age of Kali. So the questioning is starting with easy stuff, your health, your family. And so Prabhupada is talking about how everybody has some physical ailment, and everybody has some sadness because they're not with their family or their loved ones because of distance. And just maintaining the status quo, as he said, maintaining the status quo sometimes causes the separation. Like, I'm from Michigan, the job market isn't so great. So my one brother was living outside the state, and his kids all live outside that state. And the other brother is still right next to where we grew up, but his kids are in the four corners of the country, practically. Well, not four corners, but Maryland, South Carolina, Oregon, and California. So he and his wife regularly go on trips to visit because they have to be with their grandkids. So they have to spend all this money traveling around a couple times a year, it seems like at least, to go and visit different grandkids and making tours of the country to try to hold the family together, which is all over the place. And he and my sister, who are and her husband, they're all in good terms, but they live about 1 mile apart. And they don't see each other very often. And because their minds are in different places. And so families are not really together. And a lot of times families don't want to be together because it's Kali Yuga and sometimes families are dysfunctional. And sometimes people are glad to be in another state. And so they don't want to be there. That happens a lot. And this is Kali Yuga, and families are not able to function as families. And this is a good question to ask because in the Vedic society, families are supposed to be families. They don't live that far apart from each other. This is what somebody explained. Actually, Mother Irmala, who teaches children, she's a very brainy person, also does a lot of research about education and so on. And she says traditionally, the boys go immediately at age 5 to the Gurukula of the spiritual master and live there. But when they grow up and get married, they come back home and they have the wife there. So the family still has a son. The son stays home and prepares to take over the family when the father gets old. Whereas the daughters are not sent away to Gurukula. They're kept at home. But when they get married, they're gone, somewhere to that family. So the only way for a family to have a daughter at all is to not send her away to the Gurukula, right, as she put it. So trying to stay close. But then even in the Vedic, I guess from one kingdom to another, they'd send their daughter to marry another king or something, another prince. But as far as in the village, it wouldn't be that far, maybe a neighboring village or something. Not impossible to visit. And the sons would be right there, and maybe in the same house. So the families would stay together and be families. And because, if you're proper Vedic family, your family's not going to be dysfunctional. Everybody has their proper duty and they're raised properly. And so they supposedly have nice relationships. It's very good and very loving. And the children are trained to offer respect to the parents. And the parents have some guidance how to raise their children with a good culture, so they don't just by guess and by gosh and make mistakes and the kids hate them. So that is, in this 10,000 year period that we are supposed to have a golden age, we should try to build this culture back up again. And at least in the movement, now in ISKCON's tradition, everybody moves around all the time. So I've been at so many different temples, and so have many other people, although here is different. People have been here for like 40 years. And, but I don't have that experience, and wherever I've been, there's been a lot of coming and going. So eventually, we get a stable enough community by looking toward how can we build up Varnashram Dharma by developing farms and so on. We'll eventually have more of a stable society, so families will be families to each other, and it's an institution, and ISKCON is a big family. You go anywhere in ISKCON, actually speak the same language anywhere in any country. And the key points are the same language. It's the Sanskrit songs and verses. And the books are translated into your own language and so on. So we're all tied together by language, by these books, and just by the common, like one common father, Srila Prabhupada, and the common goals. So we are family, and and that's an institution. Prabhupada created the institution called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, created it to support us, to give us a safe place to live and practice Krishna consciousness. That's what institutions are for. People work together to create a safe place or a structure where they can be together or work together or accomplish something together. That's a human thing to do. Sometimes people say, complain about institutionalization or something. Well, if an institution is healthy, everybody is contributing positively. Everybody is supporting, everybody is contributing. And if you want to be completely independent of institutions for fear of being dependent on institutionalization or some idea like that, then you have to be like a mountain man. Live alone in a mountain and go hunt your own food and have a little garden or something like that, and be totally independent. You have to have all this know-how, and there can only be so many mountain men before you have a crowd, and you have to have an institution anyways. You have to organize things. So institutions are for supporting individual humans and human culture and helping us to develop our full potential. So, how did I get on this? How did I get here?
Raising your children and...
Raising your children, yes, the family, thank you. The family is an institution. And so it's in the Vedic culture, family is an institution and should support everybody. Everybody should feel that they are safe in a family. And so this is one of the questions. In these different sessions where somebody is questioning someone about their despondency, one of the first things they say is, how's the family? And so they talk about that. And so here we are in Kali Yuga, all spread out because of economics and lack of family farms and lack of, once you've been to Peru, you don't want to go back to the farm, they say. So everybody wants to go to the city. And so the farms there's fewer and fewer actual farmers. So this is a Kali Yuga thing that we have to try to work against. It's very hard to go against the current. And then the other thing, of course, is the health. If we lived a simple, wholesome life, grew our own food, and ate simply, and didn't buy packaged stuff, and didn't have all these factories and everything, then we'd have healthier bodies. And now in the age of Kali, there's so many things wrong, and sometimes you get sick from the medicine that they give you, and you have more things wrong with you, and you have to take more medicine and have more things wrong with you. So it's really a messy time, as well as internal diseases go. There's a lot of things that can be wrong with people. So, but we can, again, build up our healthy Vedic culture, try to go against this trend. And as we do that, what is it? There's this thing in the Bible, Jesus says, like yeast makes the whole dough rise. So that's true for us too. There's very few devotees in proportion to the whole population, but we can make the dough rise, the whole population. So there's more and more vegetarianism, more and more awareness that smoking is bad for you. Back to the land, more of that, more, It's probably due to our presence, and it's maybe completely due. I mean, Prabhupada came at a time the hippies were rebelling, and since then all these movements are happening, and we don't know really how much influence Lord Chaitanya has had on the whole society just because sending Prabhupada here. So all these things are happening, the whole dough is rising. So this is all about what Prabhupada was focusing on in the purport, that these things are wrong in the age of Kali, and this whole scene is about the coming of the age of Kali. But I want to also talk about, because it struck me, this questioning process. There's so many things wrong, but we don't very often question each other. What's wrong? Why do we look despondent? Maybe we're overwhelmed. Because if we start asking each other, maybe there's a fear. Oh no, I won't be able to handle it, I won't be able to help, and I'll just hear all this negative stuff, and it's hopeless. And but here's the thing, how these questions are asked is according to Vedic culture and Vedic values. And that these things are asked. And there's always some reason for if somebody's despondent. What is it really? So trying to get to it. So I notice that the questions start with the health and the family, kind of easy things. And you can watch, suppose a person looks despondent and they can't speak, because they just can't dive into it and just announce to you what their personal problems are. I mean, who knows, who doesn't experience that? You're feeling depressed and you just can't tell anybody. And you're talking to your friend and you just can't bring it up and just, dump on your friend or something. It's personal and you just can't really say yet, but it shows. You're just kind of despondent. So everybody, I'm sure, has experienced something like that. So the friend helps a little bit. It's okay, apparently, Vedically, it's okay for the friend to help by asking questions. But how to do that? Because we also have, it's a little scary because we also have this phrase, mind your own business. It's none of your business. So nobody wants to come across that reply either. So, but there is apparently a way to ask questions, and the person who can't speak will, when you hit the right question, they'll give some sign, they'll start to open up, or they'll reveal it some way. And then you can get more specific, and then it can bring it out. And isn't that one of the loving exchanges? It says, revealing the mind and giving counsel. But it appears that these questions are helping to reveal the mind. So we can help somebody. If it's in confidence, if it's a trusted friend, a superior who's supposed to be looking after somebody a little bit, or should be like a senior or something, then we can ask these questions. Anyway, there's a right way to do it. A person might not accept, but I want to talk about this procedure anyways. So here, what the bull is asking the cow, why are you covered with the shadow of grief? You appear sad. In other words, you appear like maybe you don't have your health, or maybe you're grieving for a relative. And it starts at the surface. It's always easy to talk about the body or the relatives, the family. Oh, I miss my son, or I get this stomach trouble. That's what's bothering me, or something like that. Headache. It's easy to talk about that. You're not revealing so much personally yet. But if that's not what the problem is, then you don't get much response out of the person. And so you can ask further. So I thought, well, we're going to be going on, and there's going to be more questions here, but instead of talking about the future conversation that we're going to come to anyways, I'll talk about something else. I have to find it. Let's see. Okay. No, I don't need it. I don't need all the words. Okay. So this is from first canto. Chapter 14, the disappearance of Lord Krishna, when Yudhishthira had sent Arjuna to find out about Krishna, and he was, meanwhile, observing the signs. Arjuna was gone a long time, and there was all these bad signs, bad omens, signs, and Yudhishthira suspected the worst, that maybe Krishna has departed. But it took him, he's discussing these signs, it took him a while to even speak to Bhima, down to the core of what he was worried about, because he was talking more superficially at first about what the signs were. And then finally said, I'm afraid maybe Krishna has left. And now Arjuna has come back, and let's read a few verses. 1:14-23. When he bowed at his feet, this is Arjuna, the king saw that his dejection was unprecedented. His head was down, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, obviously Arjuna can't speak yet. The king, remembering the indications of the sage Narada, questioned him in the midst of friends. So Arjuna is so deeply suffering he can't even speak it yet. So Maharaj Yudhishthira starts with the superficial questions. So Maharaj Yudhishthira said, my dear brother, please tell me whether our friends and relatives, such as Madhu, Bhoja, Dasharha, Arha, Satvata, Andaka, and the members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness. Is my respectable grandfather Shurasena in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudeva and his younger brothers all doing well? His 7 wives, headed by Devaki, are all sisters. Are they and their sons and daughters-in-law all happy? And are Ugrasena, whose son was the mischievous Kamsa, and his younger brother still living? Are Hridika and his son Kritavarma happy? Are Akrura, Jayanta, Gada, Sarana, and Shatrujit all happy? How is Balaram, the personality of Godhead and the protector of devotees? How is Pradyumna, the great general of the Vrishni family? Is he happy? And is Aniruddha, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, faring well? Are all the Cheftan sons of Lord Krishna, such as Sushena, Sharudeshna, Samba, the son of Jambavati, and Rishabha, along with their sons, also doing well? It goes on. Now you can be sure that as Yudhishthira was asking this, he was watching Arjuna's face. Obviously Arjuna was not speaking yet. So Yudhishthira keeps going, he's probing. Really, he's not just listening and saying, well, how so-and-so, how and so-and-so. He's certainly watching Arjuna's face for signs that he's getting closer. And so he has to keep asking like this, and he's hoping that the answer is going to be, about the family. Then let's see. Also, Shrutadev, Uddhava, and others, Nanda, Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls who are constant companions of the Lord, are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? Is Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives pleasure to the cows, the senses, and the brahmanas, who is very affectionate toward his devotees, enjoying the pious assembly at Dwarkapuri, surrounded by friends? So he's asking in a hopeful way. He's asking about Krishna, but he didn't ask if Krishna left. He's still asking in a hopeful way, watching for some sign. So now he's wrapped up for a few verses talking about Krishna. My brother Arjuna, please tell me whether your health is all right. Because he hasn't gotten the response yet. He didn't ask the key question, has Krishna left? So he's asking about Krishna, assuming Krishna is still here, he's asking family questions and friends. Then he's asking whether your health is all right. Still easy topics. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. Now he's probing a little deeper emotionally. Is this due to others disrespecting and neglecting you because of your long stay at Dwarka? Has someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you? Could you not give charity? Now did you fail in your duty? Could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? You're always the protector of the deserving living beings, such as brahmanas, children, cows, women, and the diseased. Could you not give them protection when they approached you for shelter? Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character, or have you not properly treated a deserving woman? Or have you been defeated on the way by someone as inferior or equal to you? Have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them and taken your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake which is considered to be abominable? So all these questions he's asking basically about Vedic duties. Did you fail in your duty in some way? Did you fail to treat someone properly? So these are kind of things that bother people, when they do something wrong like this. So this is a valid question to ask. Have you failed in your duty? Have you failed in your service? So we might ask, how is your service going? Is it going all right? How's your job? Okay. So, or is it finally he has not gotten that key response. He has not hit the button yet, hit bullseye yet with Arjuna. So now he has to say it. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for you becoming so dejected. So the other one I want to read is from chapter 6. This is when the king, Chitraketu, was lamenting because he had no son. And that's first of all, the sage gives some little bit of instruction. The sage comes to visit Chitraketu. Chitraketu is despondent, but he's greeting the sage Angira, isn't it? Properly. And so Angira starts to he's leading up to some questions, and he's starting with some general instructions about the duties of the king. So he's coming around to where he's going to ask about these. So now anyway, 6:14-17. The great sage Angira said, "My dear king, I hope that your body and mind and your royal associates and paraphernalia are well. When the 7 properties of material nature, the total material energy, the ego, and the 5 objects of sense gratification, are in proper order, the living entity within the material elements is happy. Without these 7 elements, one cannot exist. Similarly, a king is always protected by 7 elements: his instructor, Swami or Guru, his ministers, his kingdom, his sport, his treasury, his royal order, and his friends. O king, O lord of humanity, when a king directly depends upon his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. O king," now he's directly asking about duty. "King, are your wives, citizens, secretaries, and servants, and the merchants who sell spices and oil under your control? Are you also in full control of ministers, the inhabitants of your palace, your provincial governors, your sons, and your other dependents?" If the king's mind is fully controlled, all his family members and governmental officers are subordinate to him. His provincial governors present taxes on time, without resistance, and what to speak of lesser servants? O King Chitraketu, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself, or has it been caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. Sukadeva Goswami said, "O King Parikshit, although the great sage Angira knew everything, he inquired from the king in this way." Thus King Chitraketu, desiring a son, bent low in great humility and spoke to the sage as follows. So then okay, I'm going to read that. King Chitraketu said, "O great Lord Angira, because of austerity, knowledge, and transcendental samadhi, you are freed from all the reactions of sinful life. Therefore, as a perfect yogi, you can understand everything, external and internal, regarding embodied conditional souls like us. O great soul, you are aware of everything, yet you are asking me why I am full of anxiety. Therefore, in response to your order, let me disclose the cause. As a person aggrieved by hunger and thirst is not pleased by the external gratification of flower, garlands, or sandalwood pulp, I am not pleased with my empire, opulence, or possessions, which are desirable even for great demigods, because I have no son. So, therefore, O great sage, please save me and my forefathers who are descending into the darkness of hell, because I have no progeny. Kindly do something, so that I may have a son to deliver us from hellish conditions." So, that was interesting because the sage started with generalized instructions, but he knew what was wrong. But to get Chitraketu opened up, he mentioned all these generalized instructions to give Chitraketu an opportunity to react to different ones and see what he wanted to say about them. And he mentioned, are your sons doing well? I would imagine from the text that he's supposed to already know everything, that he knows there's no sons. But he said that to unlock Chitraketu, so Chitraketu could talk. And so then Chitraketu said, "Okay, I know you know everything, but since you asked, I'll follow your order and answer is because I have no sons." So then he spoke. So we need to learn this art and think about whatever psychology we need. It's all there. It's given to us. Psychology. We don't really need to go to modern psychology much. We can go, if we understand the psychology in the books, then we can help each other. We can analyze ourselves and we can help each other. So this is one thing. If we have this skill where we ask, like sometimes a devotee might be sad because they feel they should be preaching, or they feel they should be doing more service, or they're in the wrong service and they're not satisfied, or there's something not going well about the service. Sometimes this is about service. And actually, since our whole life, mind, family, raising children, everything, income, all this stuff is all supposed to be connected to Krishna consciousness and all directly related to Krishna. That kind of covers everything. I mean, it covers our psychology, everything. You know, it all can be related to Krishna and our service. It's all service to Krishna. So it all can be related to service. So we can ask, you know, how is your service? In fact, apparently here the technique is to bring out lots of possibilities. So it makes it easier to talk. So sometimes you say, what's wrong? Do you want to talk about it? And, you know, we can't bring it out. You know, it's just too hard to bring it out. No, it's all right, you know. Or maybe it's really hard to bring it out. But we can maybe help by asking questions like this. So we have so many things we're supposed to be doing right, or thinking right, or feeling right in the movement. So, and there's a standard in devotional service. The guidelines are given to us. So if somebody is failing, well, maybe they need some help. Maybe they need some encouragement. Maybe they need some reassurance that you're doing okay, actually. Sometimes you feel this way, but actually you're doing a lot. Or sometimes maybe they say, well, maybe it's are you really doing all you could do? Maybe you're not getting full happiness because you're not doing everything you could do. Is there something you can do more? You know, or something like that. Different ways we can learn, but I'm just suggesting in this class that there might be there might be some things we can learn about how these questions are done, that we can actually help each other spiritually. So I think I'll stop here. Yes?
That's just down my little thing of what you just said.
Yeah.
I want to contribute a little bit. I spent like about 5 hours this week, you know, just talking to an individual who is so depressed. You know, I'm not any kind of therapist or what. But the most important thing, I've done this all these years, you know, is just have a relationship with people, a friendship. You know, if you have a friendship, you can easily talk to them. If you don't have any friendship, you see that person is distressed, then you go talk to them, they get annoyed, you know. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
One thing I don't like, people asking me about my health all the time. You know, and that's because of my husband who poses things, you know. I want to just squeeze him, you know. He's just too much. I tell him not to do it. Every single conflicting thing, you go put it up and everybody's worried, and every single time they see you, and I get annoyed. I don't have a relationship with certain people. They're like, hey, I know you're in the hospital, this and that. Anyhow, to create a friendship, you know, with people. And obviously, if we don't, it becomes hard. And then I noticed in the devotees, we're always avoiding that kind of friction, you know. Oh, I don't want to go there, I don't want to talk, it'll take me 5 hours, you know. I don't want to listen to your problem, you know.
Yeah,
Like that.
Yeah.
So, but if you have friendship, you're obligated, you know. You feel like, well, that's my friend, you know. So like right now, I'm feeling like that about certain people. So when I have to sacrifice the time, I just go. It eases, you know. Devotees must do that. That's one thing. Thank God we talked about Chelsea yesterday, and those books. She texts me and asks me about idol worship, and I have no clue. Well, that's my husband who gave her that book.
No, I think Gokula mentioned.
No, that's my husband who gave her the book. Gokula Ranjana gave her Prabhupada book.
Oh, deities or idol worship, that book?
Yeah, the idol worship book was given to her. She mentioned my husband's name. She said, that book, there's another book you gave. And then she obviously is picking up the books Gokula Ranjana gave. So I don't know what to tell her. I develop friendship first, you know, before I do any of that. So now she's asking me this. I don't know, I'm not good at answering that idol worship books, you know.
Yeah.
What should I do? I don't want to say the wrong thing, you know.
Refer to somebody who can help.
Who's that? My husband who gave it to her?
She also texted me, but I just didn't get back to her.
Yeah, I did. I did it right away.
But
But
I-
asking me about the deity worship thing, you know. You know enough, you can.
No, she didn't say deity worship. It's idol worship. It's different.
What did
That's
she
how
ask
the-
about?
That's how the title is on the book.
Okay, but what is inside? I've never read the book. I don't know what the book is.
If you've been a devotee for 40 years, you can answer that question.
I don't know. I thought he gave a book on all different deities from all over the world. I don't know the book.
Is it about idol worship or ideal worship?
That she's also
I think
confusing
the
about
title
that.
is there, isn't it?
It's that Stephen Knapp book. But
Yeah.
I'll look at it today and
She did mention ideal, and she also mentioned idol. So I don't know
that's
which
Because I think that's in the
the
title.
title of the book.
You have to be ready.
Idol worship or ideal worship.
Okay, so
It's pro Krishna conscious.
Yeah, one has to be ready for Stephen Knapp's books. I mean,
It's kind of deep.
he goes really deep and kind of Hindu. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't really write so much for Westerners. He writes he's really into that. What are you pointing him for?
Are you still rolling?
Are you Hindu? What? What are you pointing to him?
I'd rather refer that to somebody than me, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to go, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Stephen Knapp is very much into the whole Hindu culture and everything, and he writes kind of to the Indians who have that whole cultural background. Westerners don't usually, for a long time, give two hoots about that stuff. You just give me the basic Krishna consciousness, what are the deities, you know? So actually you just have to say, I guess just tell her, deity worship is not idol worship.
Okay.
Deity worship is worship of Krishna. He has a form. We're allowed to make a statue in that form, the scripture says to, and he's there to receive your worship. So it's not made up.
Deity worship I can explain. Idol worship, I don't know what the book is mentioning.
Yeah,
I don't want to say the wrong
Maybe
thing.
we know now that that's not a book for beginners,
Yeah.
but it's good to
Yeah.
come to that understanding.
Well, I think, I mean, I love Stephen Knapp's books. I mean, some of them I really love myself, but and some of them I find, you know, too much for the Hindu culture, and I'm not that. But you have to have a foundation first. Nobody should start out on Stephen Knapp's books, I think, unless they just a scholar anyways and like to do that.
New people, we cannot do like that.
No.
Come up with so much stuff at one
But
time.
that's Chaitanya Prabhu's book, that's not Stephen now. Idol worship or ideal
Oh,
worship.
is it? Oh, I thought it was.
I don't know.
Okay.
And it's,
Okay, now I like
The
it.
leaders, because they were asking questions about the subject.
That's
So
what
you should
probably.
refer them back to your husband.
I know, I think so. That's what I'm.
that book is actually perfect for Muslims who think that this deity worship is idol worship, and that's for Muslims. Probably not appropriate for
In Krishna.
her because she's already have faith in
No,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Oh, why did she get that book? Maybe she saw it and was interested and he gave it to her. We need to figure out how we need to have a bookcase for starters and not mix it in with books for advanced study, you know, because new people can't tell the difference. They don't know yet. Yeah.
In DC Temple, they have the bookshelf, and they have written by level 1, level 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they have put the books like that.
Suggested.
Oh,
Suggested.
yeah. That's good idea. 3, 4, and 5 levels?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
So in the 5th level, there is books like Nectar of Devotion, for
See,
example.
that really will help all of us because here you cannot stop people from preaching to new ones. They're all excited. Everybody wants to give them this. But we have something in order.
Yeah.
Even anyone wants to do, they can know, okay, this is stage 1. Do this, don't do anything else, you know. So
It's
that's
a
right now.
list of
Yeah,
We're gonna do
suggested
that, and
books.
we're gonna organize that.
That's it's a list.
No, they actually have the books. Have the books. So they have written level 1,
level 2.
these books, and so on. They have the books.
We should just have level 1 and level 2.
Entrance.
No, some people.
Yeah.
There are so many books around, you know, that my husband can just
Yeah,
go
maybe
make
level
and
1,
that's
2,
free,
and
you know.
3. 1 and 2 are different levels of Prabhupada's books, and then 3 is Hardline.
I was gonna say how much I appreciate your thoughtfulness and for you to be so incisive that you picked up on this whole thing of the inquiry and the levels of the questions. I don't think that would occur to a lot of people. How much I appreciate that, Mike. And then one thing you said about we can learn how to the psychology of dealing with people, and what that made me think of is that Idaho Mataji, ISKCON mother, I forget her name.
Arudha.
What is it?
Arudha. Arudha Devidas.
That she's the mother of Ravi Gupta, and she educated her 2 boys using the Srimad Bhagavatam. She has books from the first canto up there on the top shelf that she taught everything from the Bhagavatam, and so it really is all there. It just takes some thought from it. And now she's beginning to share. She does workshops even, share her method. And then just one more thing I wanted to say is that it's so important to try to imbibe this culture and apply it. Like when you're, the idea of inquiring about somebody, like one time this Mataji, Indian Mataji, got so upset with me because I had asked her to do something and I hadn't seen her for a few days, so the first thing I asked was like, oh, were you able to, instead of like inquiring like, you know, I haven't seen you in a few days, are you okay? Which is like the cultured, natural thing to do, but for, you know, somebody from a long line of Malechas, you know, German Malechas, it's like, let's get the job done, what's going on, you know? So it's really, I appreciate your, you know, just analyzing this whole thing and impressing on us, like how important it is really to, as Mataji said, develop, you know, relationship and friendship with devotees. Even the story of Dhritarashtra, when Vidura was able to just call him out on it, you know, you're just like a beggar dog. It was because of that relationship, that loving relationship. So then when the time comes, you know, that you really have to maybe like some tough love with somebody, that may be required, that, you know, you can do it. And it's just so important, and just thank you so much.
Yeah, I was thinking as they were talking about being friends and having a friendly relationship, it's not just any friend. I have different kinds of friends, and each friend I share a certain way with. And some friends I wanna actually inquire from, and some friends I just talk about, you know, these things we talk about, you know, like that. So it's not just friends, it's by our culture of seniors or people who have some kind of responsibility or something that help others, then others have to have this respect. So we have to teach and cultivate this humility and respect in our culture. And when that is, and then there's somebody who's in a senior position or a superior position or a position of some responsibility, then because there is that respect and that realization, the responsibility doesn't mean I'm senior, I'm bigger. It means I'm supposed to help these people. So both sides are trained up in the culture in that way. Then these questions are usually with someone trusted or respected or in confidence somehow like that. It's not just spontaneous with anybody. It takes a special relationship, but we're going to have special relationships, and unless we cultivate this kind of etiquette and responsibility also. So we cultivate that, and then have these relationships, some of which are people who are responsible by some reason to try to help us. Then they will be able to, and then they will have, by these examples, they will have some skills, some ability how to break the ice and open things up nicely. So, yes. You have your hand up? Oh, you're going like this to stretch?
Yeah.
I think women are better at developing relationships like that, like you're talking about, that, you know, it could be a heads up for maybe, like, you know, maybe it must just be in the nature, you know, a woman to.
Men have different ways of doing it. You know, women sometimes also fight more easily in a certain way. I mean, everybody's got their pluses and minuses. I think everybody can do this, and all these examples are men.
Yeah,
talking. So
that's
they
notable.
Yeah.
That's really notable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like men are from Mars, women from Venus.
Yeah. But women might have different ways of we just share women talk, you know, but that's not exactly this, because this is I think actually a somewhat different dynamic than how women will share women talk. So, and I guess men probably have men talk, but this is going a little bit deeper in understanding how the culture works and how we can actually help each other. So I'm just saying we should try to learn from these examples. It's not just a storyline, it's not just the story of Kali, it's the age of Kali coming, it's also the story of how these relationships happen, how somebody questions somebody and counsels somebody, and so on.
Question.
Yeah.
That men are from Mars, women from Venus, we're actually really all from Krishna Loka.
We're all from Krishna Loka, but in this world, we're all from who knows. when it comes down to souls, men are from Mars or women are from Venus. Devotees should. Okay, everybody's heard about it. Everybody's read the book or heard about it or seen a video or something. But you know, when it comes down to it, it's about sex. I'm sorry, it's about sexual relationship.
That book, yeah.
Yeah.
But this this matters about soul.
Yeah, listen to him long enough. And
Which book are you referring to, Prabhu?
Dr. Gray, I think it's G-R-A-Y.
I'm proud to say I never read it.
Okay, popular psychology book, men are from Mars, women are
Oh,
from
the
Venus,
psychology
meaning they have different natures, and so you have to, man has to be talking, he has to have a man cave before he's ready to talk,
And
woman,
fix stuff.
yeah, woman has waves, and she has to
They
tell
wanna
about
communicate.
problems, and opposite needs like that. So it's how to get along, and basically it comes down to is how to run a sexual relationship. When you listen to him long enough, it comes down to that. So, but we need to.
Because he doesn't have a lot of man-to-man stuff.
Yeah, we need to learn about higher stuff that applies to all of us because we're souls. You know, we can all. That stuff is all over the place, but we need to go to higher things. That's our contribution. We have to contribute something higher, not just.
Yeah, higher taste.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Anything else?
Other hand, but-
Oh, great kind of.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that
Yeah.
when you're talking about questions and family, what came to my mind was the example that came to my mind was from Krishna book, when Lord Balaram was visiting Vrindavan, and all the gopis or the different Madhis or Nandamars, they were all asking different questions relating to the, what's it called? There was a key of separation there too, I'm trying to say too. But they were asking all the different things about this one, Vasudeva and Devaki and all the different relatives and everything like that. But they had something even more, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Higher, not higher, but more, I can't think of the word. But it came to that when the separation, or even with the Uddhava one too, you know?
Yeah.
At first, like you're saying, the family came about, you know, asking about different things, but the more, I don't know, it's not necessarily, but more, I can't think of the word, the separation from Krishna, finally, with
Yeah.
the real, why they're feeling,
Yeah.
not,
You know, it comes down to the other stuff is superficial. We also have to be careful that sometimes superficial stuff. Well, you look sad. How's your family? And then I don't have to tell about my sadness. I'll just tell about my family and satisfy that person. So again, this is as I'm realizing as I talk that this is for relationships in which there's some responsibility and special respect and humility and that kind of thing, not just equal friends. Because equal friends might say, oh, my family, this and this, and this, deflect the whole thing and not have to really reveal your mind. So this is all stuff to be aware of how things tick. Okay, I can't, is it like?
It's past.
Past, okay. It's really nice to see the clock.
10 minutes past your
Instruction
time.
and everything. Okay, anything else? Yes.
These relational relationships are based on, like you were describing, friendship or otherwise. But in her reference to the way all the different Vrajavasis were responding to separation from Krishna, they were asking questions about a whole variety of other subjects, all which were related to Krishna directly or indirectly. Similarly, Radharani, when she was looking for Krishna, she was talking with a bumblebee about it. So sometimes the emotion is just so strong, it just comes out in relation to Krishna, but to a personality that would have no actual knowledge of the subject matter, because the emotion is so strong, it just comes out spontaneous. So there are many references in Krishna book to these things, and that's why Prabhupada gave us the Krishna book way in the beginning, so that we can start to have some realization as to relational experiences amongst the devotees. And of course, his purports are very heavily saturated with relationships amongst the devotees. It's important because one of the things you mentioned in your description was that when a leader doesn't have a handle on his followers, that so many different difficulties occur, including even sickness, physical sickness, that occurs. When Srila Prabhupada took so many disciples, there was a discussion about the possibility of him suffering different conditions because of our karma. We weren't falling into line as well as we should have been, and therefore his health was diminished. So there is a relationship through Krishna in relation to everyone, not just devotees, but to everyone. People don't want to come forward and speak with someone else, and so they'll avoid, this person doesn't look like they're feeling very well, I'm headed this way because I don't want to get involved, and all like that. And personalism and voidism is what Prabhupada came here to overcome. And so we struggle with that, whether we realize it or not. So that's just some of the points that came to my mind as you were talking.
If we understand how this questioning goes on, for one thing, it's always a superior person who is respected. So first of all, we have to cultivate that superior persons are respected, and superior persons have to cultivate that they have a responsibility, not just that they're superior.
Right.
And when we have that kind of groundwork in place, then there's some knowledge of how to, because what else is there besides your health, your family, your duties, your service? And it kind of covers everything. So if we could ask probing questions very gently, I mean, a person who has this relationship with somebody can help. You don't have to have a degree in psychology or something, but everything comes down to these topics. So
by service, you mean spiritual life?
Yeah, spiritual service, or job is how's your job going too? Maybe somebody has to work in the heyday, or is having a crisis at work or something like that. But whatever, you can ask. These are general categories that we can learn to ask about to actually encourage a person, because whatever it is, we will hit the bullseye somewhere in this questioning, and the person will then feel invited to actually speak what they're afraid to speak about. If they don't want to jump on somebody, but okay, since you say that, maybe I'll tell you it's this problem, And then the person who's trying to help has a handle on, okay, what really is the problem? And maybe can ask a few more questions or something, and give some, or preach and say, well, this is something you're going through, it's normal, it's like this, and keep doing like this, and make sure you do like this, whatever is needed. And you can kind of tell them, the person who's got the problem will tell you what you need to say if you ask the right questions. Actually, that's true in prayer life too. You can ask all kinds of questions and not get your answer, but when you finally ask the right question, within a few hours. I mean, I've had this happen again and again. That finally prayed the right question and think there's the answer in this book I just picked up off the shelf, or somebody said it or something, So one really important key is right questions. So, but it has to be within the framework of a Vedic society in which people have the right kind of respect for one another. The superior persons have to respect the subordinates in that it's my job to make sure they're happy, not that you guys are low and I'm high, but you have to respect them as persons. You want to be happy. And, of course, the subordinates have to have respect too, or they'll just say, mind your own business. And then nothing goes anywhere. So we have to cultivate the whole culture and the specific techniques in the culture. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bhagavatam offers to Srila Prabhupada.